Greetings and welcome to Paint Here Now. I'm Will Parody, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. At least we're going to start a little bit different. I've been working on a lot of drawings lately and working on them for various ideas for printing and so on and so forth. But I started this drawing and I'm very close to finished today. There's a couple little dots I'm going to go in here and there and fill in, but for the most part, I think we're there compositionally and whatnot. And I've been looking at this piece, and as I've been drawing this drawing, I've gone back and forth on how I felt about it. And as I've been looking at it and seeing it and doing some fine tuning, I'm finally feeling like it's a very strong piece. And it's a bright piece. I think it's a piece that can it's inclusive, I guess, is what I'm saying. It might not be a recognizable landscape or a bunch of fruit or something like that, but it has inviting colors, and there's something about it that's almost primal or primordial or something. Perhaps that's kind of what I think. I wanted to start by taking a look at this piece and seeing some of the things about it that make it work, I think. And it's a lot about, a lot of the things that I talk about in these videos and in my classes and lessons relate to and revolve around the idea of a moving, flowing composition of a drawing or a painting that is more than the sum of its parts by the way that its shapes or forms individually connect to the larger whole. And there's a lot of shape and composition in here. It's not just about this orangey, starfishy looking thing and this watery background, really, at all. What it is more than anything, it's about the way that these particular forms and shapes interact in a larger whole and invite us into another part of our brain, another part of our consciousness when looking at the image. So by that I mean this. There's some very specific things that I did in order to bring out not just this composition, this character, this thing, if you will, to put it scientifically speaking, this thing. But I wanted the eye to be able to move around the whole piece. I wanted the warm colors, the red and yellow and orange colors, to not be confined in an area. I wanted them to flow nicely and compositionally around here so that they weren't overwhelming, but they helped to spread it through the piece. And I did that through these tentacle things and these fins off of these, for lack of a better term. And what these do too, if you look at it, they make a circle. Follow them. And I really wanted that to be a clear thing here, that these bring the eye around and that we have this larger circle. Now, why? Why do I do that? Why do I talk about these larger circles? You can see more. There's circles in here by these curved lines that end up connecting visually, and in here and in some other areas. Why do I do that? So there's a couple reasons. One very important reason, I think, is that a circle in a compositional sense, a larger whole circle, is a really great foundation of the focal point of view in a piece, which is to say, the eye's going to look at a painting or a drawing, and it can bounce here and there with all these lines. It can be centered in, like Da Vinci and those guys. A lot of those people did really interesting things with linear perspective to bring your eye in here. And in a way, that's kind of what I want to do with the circles. I want to make all of these dancing elements in their own little microcosms connect in a larger macrocosm of a whole. I really like the idea of a larger whole, of all of this stuff fitting into in a larger shape in a way, and that shape breaking into other shapes and whatnot. To me, that's it's a strong aspect of not just composition, but the metaphysical and philosophical nature of art, where it's something more than just a replication of something we see in life or the expression of an idea we have in our minds. It's a way that we can connect to the larger meaning of why we're here, what we are, what consciousness is, etc., etc. That really is that. And so by exploring painting in a way that tries to embody these concepts into a way that's beyond our words, but our vision takes, and we sort of get a sense of a larger whole, larger universe. I mean, that's essentially what I'm going for, when I think a lot of other artists go for, and or who have throughout history, and hopefully still do. So we have a lot of these curved elements in here in this drawing. I thought this area was a bit weak at first, to be honest. I think it comes in nicely. I like there's a continuation of these curves, and it does continue to work in here, even though there's a few areas that feel more like crisscrossy, like patchwork or whatnot, or as opposed to a fluid continuance. But I think it ended up working okay. The yellows in here, the yellow greens help a lot. One of the things I really appreciate about the yellow greens in this piece is the way, and in general, honestly, is the way that they can connect warm and cools together. So if I had used this particular yellow green, I should say, in here, it would have been, mixed with these warmer colors. It would have really stuck out as a greener, cooler color. In these more pronounced cool colors, this yellowish comes out much warmer, and so it becomes a nice interlude. And so I tried to bring those in throughout the piece without it being overwhelming or necessarily just all over, but again, to follow the rhythm of everything. And I think it helps. I really like what that did, because I think too much of a contrast, well, it could work if this was all super dark and cool and this was more bright. But I like how it intertwined the contrast. And again, add for other visual elements. So anyways, I think those elements were working okay. There's some areas that I had to kind of go over again or revisit because they just weren't working. And when I say something like is not working, what I mean is an area in a piece that really blocks the eye. You just keep going there, and it you get stuck, or it makes everything seem off, or everything but the mouth is perfect in the face. Otherwise, then it makes the whole painting fall apart or whatever. And you've probably seen and or made work like that. I've done both. So there was areas like that I really, I try to work on in every piece, and they happen, especially when you're painting or drawing fluidly and you're allowing for a rhythm, and you're not like, okay, this has to be here or there. Almost inevitably, there'll be a roadblock or a point where, oh, wait a second, let me reevaluate, or I don't know if that's doing what it should do, or this is a little off. And it's an eye and feeling thing. It really is. And that's what's so important, I think, about art and abstract art, is you learn to incorporate and appreciate and understand that language, the feeling part of things, the rhythm and the count. It's not so much of I'm describing this and you place this here. It's the more you do it, the more you can really feel what it is that's going on with the movement of shape and form to our consciousness, our minds, our eyes, our souls. If I roll my eyes, kind of. Our life essences, our beings, our physical bodies, the whole 9 yards. You choose what you will. It affects us as people. So I try to have pieces that make pieces that have a flow, they have contrast, they have areas that catch your eye or whatnot, but they don't stop your eye. They don't go, I try not to. And I have pieces that do that. And I've had pieces, as an artist developing, where I was very confident in them as strong pieces. And then years later, I'll go back and I might see things that I would do differently. Sometimes I have, or I've redone pieces. And then some pieces are pretty, they maintain their integrity as well. So to a certain degree, like there's this piece I could go and change certain things and make it stronger, but it still has a base integrity in it. I think, and I've got other work as well like that. I still have to fill in a few marks. I'm going to go back and do that a bit periodically, or probably I might be the thing I do tonight in between other tasks, music and whatnot. You get to a point in a piece like this where it, there's so much tininess if you're trying to cover the white that sometimes you just have to step back and go in and call it done, except for a few touch-ups that maybe nobody will notice except a computer or a microscope or something like that. So anyways, so one of the things about the subject matter of this piece that I think if you can call it subject matter, then I want to bring attention to is the anthropomorphic. And for those of you not familiar with the word, it basically means a lifelike, essentially. Anthropomorphic describes imagery or something, an object, a technically not alive thing that harkens to an animal or a living image. Drawings like the medieval monks who drew dragons and things like that in all cultures, really. Those are anthropomorphic forms. A lot of if you see a cloud, for example, and it looks like a dog running, that's an anthropomorphic form, essentially. So what this, and it doesn't, and it often refers to forms that aren't of a, like, that's a picture of a dog, as much as this group of variables, these strokes, this imagery, this abstraction harkens to a lifelike entity. And that's essentially, I think, what anthropomorphism is. So when I say this is an anthropomorphic form, what I mean is it harkens to something that could be alive or feels alive. It feels like a creature. And there's something about it that does. It's aquatic. It's got these tendrils or whatnot, and the tentacles are possible eyes, possible mouth. I've struggled with this area a little bit. I'm happy with it now. I think it's working well in color scheme and form wise. But there was something about it that was just too strong. I had to go in and add some other circles and do some layering, and I feel much better about it. But it felt like it was an insect or trying to and it still has a feel of a creature, but it doesn't feel quite so parasitic to me, and I hope that it doesn't to you either. And it just feels a lot more fluid. So there's an interesting area in here, which is a little different from the other areas, and I tried to make that, it's almost like a belly in a way. This thing's moving a little. There's a sense of symmetry, but there's also a sense of variance, movement perhaps, and things like that going on. I didn't want to go for actual depth, shading, light. It's really at all. And one of the reasons that I do that often, and in a piece like this, and many of my paintings, so this could lead to a whole other thing, actually, and we'll talk about it more in other times, but I want to at least touch it now. When you do artwork that is of and about the colors and forms that you're seeing on the page almost exclusively, which is to say this green isn't meant, and these greens aren't meant to come together to form a tree that I'm looking at that has specific rules of shading or depth, or any type of abstract idea that incorporates objects in space as we know it, with depth and shadow and all of these things. So if you focus on art or work to make art that is about the color and line itself and does not in any way, shape, or form work to emulate or represent our concept of depth, what you're doing is you are now using these forms for what they are, not for what they can mean to us in our connection to life. What this does, obviously you look at art, it connects to you and us, kicks next to you in some aspect of your life in some way, shape, or form, or it distinctly doesn't, and therefore you're maybe repulsed to or attracted to it. But there's something that you connect to with. So, I think that let me recollect myself here. When we look at images that are not trying to be of anything, we can appreciate that this green and this blue and this green here move and mean something together. There's an in and out. There's a pattern. It doesn't mean that this is lighter. Well, it is lighter in value, but it doesn't mean this comes out. This is the light part and this is the dark part. They could both be in the light. This could be in shadow and this could be in light. But it really doesn't have anything to do with those things. It is really about what is on your surface. What you can see here, the depiction of these images. Not images even. It's okay. Let me go back. It is about what you see here. It is about the composition of this, how all of these elements, these shapes that you make work together to create a universe of interest of some capacity, and that can bring you into almost a sense of sublimity without it having to represent anything at all. So basically, all of that is to say, here's the short version. Artwork, and especially abstract artwork and even image-based artwork, does not have to be about the general rules of shading, depth, and color usage. Art, often at its best, I believe, is when it is truly about what you are looking at and how that relates to itself in the, and how you can relate to that from your perspective. Not about, oh, this looks like this. And yes, it's that too. But honestly, if you just use art for its color, and not use, but if you embrace art for its color and form, its pure color, its form, and how it works and interacts and connects, you'll find a whole new level of not just appreciating and understanding art, but the world around you. So I really, really, really think that's important. So I want to get back just a little bit to the anthropomorphic idea. So the fact that this is a creature-ish kind of a thing. There's a whole lot of, I'm working on a series to involve more of these, and I'm going to, have these out in various forms soon. That's the plan, at least. But I really dig the idea of creating abstractions, especially these types of surreal abstractions that have life in a way, that have, this would have life even if there wasn't a form that looked a bit like a starfish. I hope or think because of its composition or whatnot, but it would be a different piece. But here, this is a way to play around a little bit. Anthropomorphic forms are a way to play around a little bit with abstract work and fantasy and realism, all rolled up into one. And if you keep your work very abstract, and again, about these shapes and stuff, and let them form, there's all kinds of paths and different things that you can do with anthropomorphic shapes and things that look aquatic or like birds or whatever it might be. So without having to say, this is a bird and I'm drawing the beak, or this is the fish and I'm drawing the fin, you just draw. Draw and find things that pop up and let them anthropomorphize into other objects. If you're an artist that likes to, or a viewer that likes to draw, or a viewer that likes to see pictures of realistically detailed pictures of fish and illustrations of animals and things like that, hey, more, that's fine. I mean, that's great. More power to you, I guess. I don't know if that phrase is all right. And there's something to that, but this is something that you shouldn't embrace that over this. This should be also a part of your diet if you're going to include, that. I really, really do believe that abstract forms, anthropomorphism, and this sense of color and form for its own sake really do go a long way for our connecting to the world and to consciousness. As we find anthropomorphic forms in our work and these things, aren't we then more intrigued about all the mysteries of life that we see? We have more than ever as people a connection in some ways and a disconnection in others to life. Like we've seen, most of us even, in some way, shape, or form have seen in a microscope or in films, microscopic creatures and macroscopic things like our universe and whatnot. But in all of these elements of life, and sea creatures and all these things of the deep that we've seen that we haven't been able to see in most of our time as people. And there's an excitement about that. And there's an excitement about doing abstract work that harkens to the excitement of finding these types of fantasy creatures. And without being totally overt and about them. One of the things that I like about doing this abstract color form style of work with these types of creatures is that I'm not, again, the creatures are coming from this world. It's not like I am trying to emulate them in our world by using our rules of shading. Or light. These creatures come from this world that does not go by our rules of light, shading, and depth. It's a different universe. And so you can find so many different things in it, and yet it can connect and relate to our universe. So I am feeling, pretty good about this piece and explaining it to a degree. Thank you for letting me share it. What I was going to say is, before I'm feeling pretty good, to be honest, is I'm feeling a little lightheaded from that rant and that talking. So I think I'm going to take a break from that. And what we'll do next is we'll do a little bit of color mixing. We're going to, like I said, this episode's going to be a little bit different. We're going to do a quick color mixing exercise and show a little bit about what we did last week and how we can continue to turn that into a painting We'll do that, and then we'll go from there. We'll check in after that. So let's switch gears here. Thank you again for looking at this. We're going to do some lessons with drawing too, I think, and some more stuff like this, lessons like involving this type of work. But I'm glad to be able to talk about it and help to see it from a different light. It's not a perfect piece, but it is. It's got some things going on well. And I remember, look at. It's not just about, oh, what is this or the contrast. Look at the shape. Let this move you. I mean, there's something about that, the movement and the form, and why we're, like we look at spirals in the sky and things that move. It's like we like that stuff. So intrinsically, consciously. So there's that. All right. Thank you all very much. We're going to get to a little bit of a painting exercise here. Sounds good. All right. All right. So we are going to do a quick little painting lesson here this week. And we'll show you, I'm just going to go through the basics. And I want to try to do it real quick so you get a good idea of how cool it is and in a sense how easy it is. I don't want to say easy, but we have, as far as color goes, some pretty basic principles. Let's just put it that way. So I'm cleaning my brush here. We're starting with the 3 primary colors of red, yellow, and blue. So there is red. Here is yellow. Clean the brush. Wipe it all over your clothing. So this is acrylic paint. It does kind of stain, but that's what paint's supposed to do. It does clump out with water in your clothing and stuff, and it dries pretty quick. So if you're painting, you want to wear clothing you don't mind getting paint on. Primary colors, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, red, yellow, and blue. Okay. And you can see here, as I just demonstrated a little bit with the blue, if you paint it thinner, you can get a slightly lighter color. See? With a little bit of water, it thins it out. It's still blue, but you get a slightly different tone. Red, yellow, and blue, primary colors. If we mix yellow and red together, since I'm using a lot of a light color and a little bit of a darker color, when I mix those, a little bit more of that red color, honestly. Mix that up, and we have an orange. So red and yellow make orange. Yellow and blue make, you guessed it, they make green. They make so many different kinds of green. Like this nice green. So, yellow and blue make green. Clean the brush just a little bit, or decent amount, and then we have red and blue make purple. Purple or violet. The way I look at it is if it's more on the blue side, it's purple. If it's more on the red side, it's violet. But that doesn't matter too much. Just a matter of distinction. So that's a nice dark purple. If we add a little white to this, you'll see how it comes out a little bit more. Color's not as saturated, which means pure, strong, but you can see it lights. It's a nice little lavenderish purple. It's a nice little pale purple color with the types of red and blue that we have here. So we have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. Orange, green, and purple are the secondary colors because they're mixed from the primary colors. Primary first, secondary second. Then you can mix the tertiaries or third and so on and so forth. Red, orange, orange, yellow, and then you keep it going down the line. So one of the things that's cool about what we have here is we can mix these colors to make all kinds of other colors. So if we mix red and green, blue and orange, and purple and yellow, we mix, these are called complementary colors. So the red and green are complements of each other. Blue and orange, one primary, one secondary, primary, secondary, and then yellow and purple, primary, secondary. Warm and cool, dark and light, sort of warm and cool at least. And then we have, when we match these up, they almost neutralize each other, or they make grays and brown. So there's a little bit of a reddish purple. I'm going to add a bit of yellow to this. We're going to get a real interesting brown. Look at that. Now I'm going to make it a little bit more blue, like a bluish purple, by adding this. almost too much. So then it comes almost to a little bit of almost a green color. So then we're going to add a little bit more of that red. See these different kinds of neat colors we can get. Look at that. That's a cool gray colors. There's so many different things that you can do by mixing your complements and then some other colors together. That's really neat stuff. Oh yeah, okay. See, that's a great gray. Could be clouds, could be sidewalk, could be rocks, could be all kinds of things. So many different things. Shadows. Awesome stuff. So let's try a little bit more there. We got some red. Okay, we're going to add a little bit of green. By making a little bit of green right here. And then just a little bit more red. It kind of sucked into the paper a little bit. And then we get some really interesting colors. We add a little bit of white. You can start to see, again, look at that interesting gray color. Really neat stuff. See, red and green. Red, green, and white. Who'd have thunk it? This and this with a little white makes this. Really cool colors that you can use for all kinds of things in nature and life. I mean, shading, and you can change it up. You can add a little bit more red. You can add a little bit more, you know, like the green color. You know, and get something, well, that just covered it all up because it's drying. So you can do some really cool things, really neat stuff. Whoa, oh boy. Just all these different combinations of colors, different browns, greens, different varying grays, and different degrees of stuff. So that just awesome. So there we go. Look at that. So we mix the basics, primary colors, secondary colors, and complementary colors. And we're starting to get, so we're going to make this kind of mix it as we go. For the blue orange, it's more like going to be a green red, but again, same idea. Look at that. What a beautiful color that can be for some water, for night times, for plant colors, different shadows. We add a little bit of white. It's really a neat color, a neat grayish green. Oh yeah, a little extra yellow in there is neat. See, there's plants that look this color, all kinds of stuff this color. Try to get a little bit more of some good browns here, adding a little bit of purple and yellow, but we're going to try to make it a little bit more on the warm side. That's an interesting brown. Very interesting kind of a brown. Look at that. It's very useful. Let's add a little bit more red to some of it here. Gonna get almost pinkish purple there. Nice kind of a different kind of a reddish brown. Let's see how we're doing on our yellow. We'll add some more yellow in here. Grab some of this from up here. Neat color. Look, see again, look at this kind of a brown. Almost like wet sand or some mud or tree color, tree bark. So from these colors, we mixed all of these different colors. We add a little bit of water to thin it out. This color is now this color with a little bit of water. Clean the brush some and look, just spread it on the paper to see the different types of things you can do. Thin paint, thick paint, no paint, just a little bit of water, so on and so forth. What happens with some blue? It's neat. Neat colors, neat color combinations. So there we go. There's a quick basic color lesson of all the stuff that you can, well, all touching the scratching the surface of what you can do by mixing these three colors together to get all kinds of things that you can use, and all kinds of abstract paintings or realistic paintings. Look at all, like the green grassy area. All of a sudden this could be a grassy plain, and these could be trees in the distance and a hill even. Well, in fact, we'll even make that feel a little bit more in the distance. By adding a little bit of white and blue gray. In the distance, things tend to get a little bit more faded and a little bit bluer even. So yeah, all of a sudden we can have something in the distance, almost like a sky, you know, darkening. See that tiny little landscape right here? See, it's amazing what you can do, but it's by mixing some colors and having some fun and seeing what happens. Look at this with this white area, if you can see that. With this white and blue, how oceanic it might look. So now connect this in here. Now this might be more like a wave than a landscape with this little white edge up top. See how that can be water and puffy wave and this and that. And maybe a little darker here and there. Just fun. And a little bit of pure blue. Add a little bit of our little muddy yellow to it to get... Yeah, see, that's such a cool ocean gray up in the wave. Ocean green, I should say, not gray. And so on and so forth. So there we go. Let's take a quick look then at what we did, since it is now dry. Last time. Similar thing to what we did there. You can see now we can put some more colors over it. We can start to add some definition next time as to what, do we want this to be like a stone walkway? That kind of looks kind of cool, or a wall. So maybe we'll do that. Is this going to be a body of water? It's purpley, but we could get some more blue in there. You know, what's it going to be? What happens when we put some blue on there? That really pops out. That's pretty cool. So once you have your paint dry, even on paper like this, you can go over it with other things and start to see, oh, look how neat that blue looks on that gray, for example. And what happens if we put that over here with this green? And we can just kind of go in and start, oh, what if we wanted to make this look more like trees? You know, we'll just give a little form. Well, we want to actually put some actual green in there. So we'll bring some more of our greenish muddy yellow in there because they're in the distance. And then we'll go back and we can just add all kinds more stuff. So as you can see real briefly, that you can go back and layer on top of this paint. You can take an old painting exercise and explore it and add things to make it more interesting, turn it into an actual painting. So there's so much that we can do. We're going to come back to this and some other stuff next time. All right. Well, it seems, and I didn't catch it, but we're keeping it. So the bulk of this video, or our last little bit, I guess, it's not the bulk of this lesson. We looked over this painting. The camera started to go a little bit in its, on its tripod. So we're keeping it because I thought it still looked kind of cool, and that is what it is, and it's part of the fun of it and part of the fun of art. And sometimes things will be a little bit not what you expect, but you can still make the most of it. So anyways, we had some fun. We looked at this larger drawing I worked on. We did another color exercise, which was, again, we can start to see how different colors and color mixing can be, used in the different ways that we want or incorporated into our different ideas for painting. Anyways, we're going to come back and work on this a little bit more next time, see how we can start to bring some more elements of this piece and maybe another one out to make it look a little bit more like something, and then how we can make some things look more abstract and make that work too. So we're going to explore this again next time, and in the meantime, have a great evening and be well, keep making art, find love, and continue to be good to each other. And thank you very much for your ear and your time.